Okay, everybody, welcome to the what I call my 3-day challenge. This is the very first day. And as you've already figured out, if you're watching this recording, you have the first PDF, or you've clicked on the link in the email that I sent. So if you don't yet have the PDF, which is going to have all the slides that I'm about ready to show you, along with all the links that are clickable within the PDF, then make sure that you click on that link that I sent you in the email where you can download the PDF. Because this is a YouTube video, which I'm asking you, please do not share. This is only for people who are in the challenge. So yes, you were sent a YouTube link and you were sent a link to download all of the PDFs for the challenge from my Google Drive. And each day I'll be adding to it. So before we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. And I'm going to share my screen. And one of the reasons I like to do this is I'm a teacher. And I understand that there are many styles of learning. One is visual, one is auditory, another is using the imagination. So one of the ways to do that is to listen to me talk while I'm showing you the PowerPoint, and then you can go back and you can read it later. There's a lot of ways that are going to help you cement the information. So I'm going to be saying the same things a lot, but in a variety of different ways to help you cement it into your being, because that's what it takes, repetition and getting things in there. And I'm just saying that as a perspective of a teacher. So without further ado, we are going to share my screen. We're sharing the first PowerPoint presentation, which I'm going to do from the beginning. Is it going to do it from the beginning? There we go. Okay, because, I'm a theater person too, having been in the orchestra pit many times. One of the things that, and I'm going to move me up here to the corner so you can see me. So session 1 is frequency cliff notes. There's my website, healingfrequenciesmusic.com. And this is all understanding how frequency in general affects the spirit, soul, and body. Many of you may have already heard of all of this stuff. So it might be a review, but I'm going to be adding some different things because this will very much affect everything that you get in the rest of this thing. So this and every one of these PDFs, you're going to have a link to the video. Obviously, the video link is not there because I'm making the video now. Once the video is up on YouTube, I will post that link here. And then here is a link to the challenge webpage. And all of the sources that you provide and that I provide will be put up on the webpage. That way you can just click on the webpage at any time and find any links that are not already in the PDFs. All right. And now we're going to go to some housekeeping. First of all, I know, and I just lost, I can't read. Okay. I show you what's worked for me as I transform my own mindsets. And you want to consider using what I share to create your own method of wholeness. There we go. Now I can move it back. And I can't take you somewhere I've not been myself. So I'm sharing with you my journey and what's worked for me. And so as you go to different conferences, as you take different classes, you're going to find bits and pieces that work for you, but maybe not everything will. So keep that in mind as we go through this. I use the terms God and creator to represent divine intelligence since they are universal to most religious beliefs. I'm from a Judeo-Christian background, and so that is my perspective, but I'm finding a lot of connections between a variety of belief systems. Many ancient texts they have the same moral code, I guess, for lack of a better term, and they have a lot of the same stories. So that makes me have to go, huh. So anyway, we'll leave that there. What you're going to do is mix and match what I share with your personal revelation and with what others in the challenge will be sharing with you as well. Then you're going to use this link, which I think nope, this first time you're seeing this link. Use this link to download the daily PDFs that include the lesson video, which is clickable. And just like this, you see it, you're going to see this, and you're going to click on that link, and every day you go in there, there'll be a new PDF. You'll receive daily emails with the above link. Each day, a new session will be added to the challenge folder. And download your copy of the Emotional Roots of Physical Symptoms chart from the Google Drive link that's above. That is currently already there. So at any time, make sure you go grab that, because in the VIP sessions, we're really going to take a deep dive into emotional roots of physical symptoms. Remember, there's a bonus 4th day teaching where I tell you more of my story and share my bench of 3. And remember that there's a Q&A session at 9:00 a.m. Pacific time on August 24th. That's a Saturday for all registrants. The general sessions and the VIP sessions. And that's immediately following the 8 a.m. VIP session on the 24th. This is where you can come with questions. Recordings of all sessions, all live sessions will be available and sent to you. And they will also be uploaded into the Google Drive. And the VIP Zoom sessions begin at 8:00 Pacific time, the 22nd, 23rd, and the 24th. Okay, in this presentation, we are going to talk about frequencies of thoughts, intents, and words, and how the actions they frame our world. We get what we say. We're going to go through the historical uses of sound. We're going to talk about cymatics. There's an example of cymatics in that flower on the right. That's using a cymoscope. Chromotherapy, which is color therapy. Water memory, and variety of healing protocols, and a whole list of helpful resources. And this presentation actually came from another one that I did, I don't know, 3 years ago. And I just revised it specifically for this and added some new stuff because I keep learning things. Nikola Tesla said, everything rings like a bell. Notice the word everything. So keep that in mind. All created matter has a resonant frequency. My shirt, my eyeglasses, my hair, the microphone, the computer, the carpet, the fireplace, the bricks, all of those things have a resonant frequency. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist. Water holds the memory of what's put into it. Now, this is going to be really important as we go throughout this. Our bodies are a living receptor of vibration and frequency. Think about it. If water carries the memory of everything put into it, and our bodies are made of 70% water, just ponder on that. We learn by vibrational frequency and can change damaged frequencies by introducing something new. They say that the trauma and the illnesses are not necessarily carried in our genetics. They're beginning to recognize that they come through the epigenetics, which is the memory of what came down from ancestors. And that can be overwritten. Our thoughts and intents have a vibrational frequency, and this is quantum physics. So we don't think that our thoughts, that's created matter. Our intents are created matter because they are doing something. They have a motion to them. So if it has a motion, it's a frequency. We change our frequencies through shifting our mindsets, which starts with our thought life. And just to show you this picture, that's a bunch of crop circles. Then you're going to see some interesting things about that here soon. All sound is frequency and energy. Frequency and energy are basically synonymous with one another. Motion and actions create a frequency. Matter has resonant frequencies. I've said that before, but I'm going to say it again just to cement it into our brains. Our thoughts, intents, and emotions create a frequency. That we'll get into that in the VIP sessions when we talk about the emotional roots of physical symptoms. And I'm a perfect example of that, which I will give more of that throughout this 3-day challenge. In the beginning, God said, he spoke. If you look at Genesis 1:1. So the sound of his voice is what began the creation process. And I think that most ancient texts, they might have a different name, but they all say the same thing. Those before the 20th century understood how sound could be used to complete daily tasks. Ancients used sound instead of machines to get the job done. And there's evidence of this, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Our world is framed through the use of frequency, which is vibration. That includes audible sound. It includes motion. It includes, there's so many things, color. All of those things create a frequency. Out of the mouth of Creator comes light, which is creative light. His voice speaks via sound, which is creative sound. Our DNA sings a song reminding us of our blueprint for life. There's a company in California who will actually, if you can send them your DNA, you can have, what is it, through ancestry.com, you send your DNA, well, you send this company your DNA and they'll create DNA and they will create a song for you. God's voice is the initiator. Now you're going to notice the cymatic shapes on the right-hand side match turtle backs, which is interesting. 20th century view changed to the crystal itself being a transmitter. We think of the crystal carrying, well, yeah, it might be carrying the frequency, but it didn't initiate the frequency. Sound doesn't create because something has to initiate the sound. So we are creators that initiate, and then that transmit, puts it into like a crystal or something else, and then see what I'm saying here? Creator is the original initiator. All thoughts, intentions, and words by people are also initiators. So we initiate every time we speak or think or intend something. And our spirit, soul, and our body respond to that, as well as the atmosphere around us. Items are receivers, they are not transmitters. Ancients knew how to use sound. So sound travels beyond the speed of light. It can boil water and it can also levitate. There's many science experiments that are showing how we can do this now. The ancients understood sound and frequency as a source of energy. Stonehenge, the pyramids, Easter Island, got those big statues, the Malta House of Forum, or I don't know if I said that right, but there's all of these megalithic structures which were generated or built to generate sound. For what purpose? They're just beginning to discover that. Ed Leedskalnin, who built Coral Castle, which there's a picture of it here on the right, may have discovered and then used tools of ancient civilizations to single-handedly build this castle. And he only did it during certain hours. And there were kids who were living next door and they could always hear him humming. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, how could he single-handedly take all of this coral, which weighed a ton, and build this phenomenal structure? No one's been able to figure it out, even though there's a couple of possibilities. I won't go into that here. Stone cone-shaped tools don't make sense to us, but they appear to have been used by ancients for moving large objects. Many now suspect that levitation is all about knowing how to use frequency as energy. It's not a new age technique, but more about knowing how to use the energy that's already around us. Our thoughts, intents, and words. And I'm going to talk about these as creating the bench of three. Those are three things. Words create a frequency. And scripture in Proverbs and James, they say life and death are in the power of the tongue. So the tongue is a small member and it boasts many things. But what a great forest fire can be set ablaze by such a small little thing. That's the basics. But you see those scriptures in other ancient texts as well. All we have to think about it is one little rumor gets, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, it goes off. You just play the telephone game and you'll know what I mean by that. What we say over ourselves, what we see and get an image of, what we think, what we say, what others say to and over us, and the music that we listen to all create a vibrational frequency. Within our frequency matches, or sorry, when our frequency matches the frequency of creator, we entrain to what he's saying about us. We come into agreement with the love that is behind his thoughts, intents, and actions. And I'm going to go through that a lot in this. In training, which is called chronobiology, aligns a weaker frequency to a stronger. A lot of people use higher and lower, but those are really wrong terms. Weaker means that it is not as powerful. And a stronger frequency is definitely more powerful and overrides. So entrainment was first discovered by Dutch scientist Christopher, I think it's Huygens, in 1665. And he was having pendulum of clocks swinging, and eventually they'd all swing together at the same time. And you'll see several science experiments where they do things like this. And again, just as a reminder, energy equals frequency. And here's some effects of frequency. So in 1831, troops are marching across the suspension bridge, and the bridge collapsed because their rhythm of their marching matched the resonant frequency of the bridge. And this is now why troops have to break cadence when they're crossing bridges. Now, many of you have heard of Galloping Gertie in 1940. The Tacoma Narrows Bridge, which is in Tacoma, Washington, in the United States, West Coast, it collapsed. And you can go on YouTube and type in Galloping Gertie and you'll see a video of it literally galloping. What they found is the resonant frequency of the wind matched that of the cables and caused the bridge to sway and collapse. Now, that may have been updated since I first wrote this, so I could be slightly off on that. I'd seen something that came out in the last year in like 2023 where they have another explanation to how that might have happened. Here's another one. Hitler used speeches, which was backed with music, as a form of sonic warfare to confuse and brainwash the people by playing it constantly and loudly. And of course, at that time with poor amplification methods, it's, like taking your fingers and running them down a chalkboard. So how do we get brainwashed now? Well, think about media. They're constantly, if you listen to certain media sources, they use the same phrase over and over and over and over and over again between a variety of different sources. And you think, why do they keep using those exact words? Well, this is a form of what Hitler did as well. So I'm just pointing that out because I have noticed that much more recently than I used to. Royal Raymond Rife used frequencies to kill cancer. In the mid-1900s, Nova Biotronics is continuing his research. Unfortunately, they haven't updated their website in about 6 or 7 years. So I'm not really sure what they're up to. Cymatics. Hans Jenny is said to have invented cymatics. The official definition is the study of how sound affects matter. Crop circles. Here are some examples. If you see my cursor, these are crop circles. This is the same image on a cymoscope. Here is a sunflower. There's the cymoscope image. And here's a Chladni plate. So these are a variety of things that you can create with cymatics. And this original presentation had a whole bunch of things with cymatics. You might want to just go into YouTube and type in cymatics of Rosslyn Chapel, Rosslyn Chapel in Edinburgh, Scotland, and Music of the Cubes. Rather fascinating. Now, here's the thing that I found out by talking to, and I'm going to move me down here to the bottom. When I first discovered this, I was teaching at Washington State University, And a student who is a physics major in my survey of music class came and talked to me because I asked him some questions about, getting Chladni plates. And he said, and reminded me of a couple of things. Chladni plates are 2-dimensional and a cymoscope is 3-dimensional. The cymoscope, you're seeing many layers and you're putting the sound in water. This Chladni plates are on an actual thin plate. And this is what he said to me. Chladni plates show different shapes based on the fundamental frequency of the plate itself. So the different shapes, the different thicknesses, the different sizes, if you were to take and you were to play them, you would get the fundamental frequency. And then you're only going to get shapes formed out of the harmonics of whatever that fundamental frequency is. And here's an example, like if you take the lowest A on the piano, the first harmonic is going to be the next A, then the next harmonic is going to be a perfect fifth above that, which is an E, and then you have a perfect fourth above that, which is another A. So you've got 3 A's right there. Then as you notice, you go up the harmonic series, and this is a natural phenomenon, the pitches get closer together. But the strongest intervals are going to be the octave, the perfect fourth, the perfect fifth, and then you start seeing the major and the minor third. And so by the time you get to the 6th harmonic, you've built yourself a major scale, which is why major scales seem so pleasing to us. But this is the thing I found out about Chladni plates. So it didn't really matter which one I would get. I'm only going to get shapes on the harmonics of whatever the fundamental frequency is of that plate. Shapes only form when the proper harmonic is reached. And on the cymoscope, tones are played into water and they fuzz out as the pitch decays. And I'm going to show you that on the next slide. And now I have to move me again. I think I'm going to move me over here. I don't think there's much up there. I like the fact I keep moving myself. So with the cymoscope, it's much easier to see the many layers of the harmonics. I mean, if you could look at the cymoscope image from the side, because all the images that we're seeing are from the top down, but I'd really be curious to see it from the side, and then you could actually see all of these harmonics at work. Just a thought. Now, here is the image that we see all the time. People ask me about this. They say, oh, well, here's 432 and here's 444, or here's 440. But the problem is because the sound is constantly morphing, that shape is never still. And I'll demonstrate that at some point, probably during the Q&A session or in the VIP sessions, because I have a Cymoscope app on my phone and I can play it in 440 and you can see the shape morph. And at some point in the sound, the 432 is going to look just like this. So you know that they took this picture towards the beginning of the sound and they took this picture at the end when it was almost gone. So depending on where in the sound you actually take the picture is going to determine what the picture looks like. So there's no way that you can say that this is definitively what it looks like. Just thought I would throw that in there. And I already said that. And I said that too. So when you're looking at both of the images within the first 2 or 3 seconds, they both make beautiful pictures that are slightly different. You can hardly tell the difference between the sounds. If you're a trained musician, you will definitely know, but someone who's not used to hearing them might not. Here's some examples of cymoscope images with piano notes, and I believe these are A440 notes. And this is all in A440, and the pitches are gorgeous. And John Stuart Reed, who is the inventor of the cymoscope, these are from him. Okay, and then there's another earlier version, and this is called, and I'm going to move me again. Man, you'll see this in the PDF anyway. So the Idophone is by Margaret Watts Hughes. What she ended up doing was it's a device where you sing into with a stretched membrane over the top of a resonator. So that's here's the resonator. B is the membrane, and you put sand on top of that, and then you sing into this tube, and then it creates shapes, and these are the shapes. And this is a particular song that she sang into there. I think it's the doxology. Da 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 da. Yep, it is. I couldn't remember. I had to read the music to know. So the shapes created are put into sheet music, which, as you can see, she did here. Now we're going to move on to another form of frequency, which is chromotherapy, which is color in healing. And I didn't understand this until I started doing research, but the ancient Greeks and Egyptians used colored minerals, stones, garments, crystals, salves, and painted sanctuaries in various colors for treatments. Color was considered a basic part of the healing process. And they're starting to do that now because they're finding it, colors do have an emotional effect on us. Avicenna in 980 AD made clear the importance of color in both diagnosis and treatment. So we can see that chromotherapy has been around forever. Edwin Babbitt in 1942 developed a theory of healing with color. He established the relationship between minerals and colors and developed elixirs by irradiating water with sunlight filtered through colored lenses. And you can get his book, Principles of Light and Color, on Amazon. I need to, for the next video, I'm going to put my other glasses on because, and I'm going to move me again. Because I'm looking through the top and I need to see through the bottom. I just gave it away. Charles Kloch in 1993 associates color with the chakras. And this is about the time that the whole chakra thing in the 1950s is when it became really popular. It's not how it was originally set in the 16, 17, 1800s, but they changed it around in the 1950s. And so here are some books, Color Medicine. You can find those on Amazon. Now we are morphing into the color spectrum. As you see, it's between ultraviolet and infrared. And if you take color, which is marked in nanometers, and you bring them down 40 octaves, you can turn them into a musical pitch. Now I want you to pay close attention to this because I get asked this question all the time. C is not red. C is green. G is red. And if you can see how it works on the color spectrum, and you're dealing with this F sharp range is going to be down in here, which I find rather fascinating. And I talk about that in the Frequencies of Creation series of my blog posts. But so this shows you the colors when you're moving them down from colors into musical pitches. Now, so for example, if we take A440, they're showing orange. Okay, let's say it's A432. It's still going to be orange. The only way that it's going to become red is if you literally lower that A half a step and you call that an A, which way back in the day of Bach and those dudes, you saw concert pitches around 415, 420. And at that point, you're going to get closer to the red for the A, but that's only when you change concert pitch. And that's way too much weirdness to describe right now. I have lots of blog posts on it. So if you want more, read the blog posts. Okay, now the next one is water memory. There is Luc Montagnier. He is the lead researcher on water memory now. He is the one who discovered the HIV virus and received a Nobel Prize for his work on that. And experiments are showing that water receives and retains the memory of outside influences. And I have a couple of long video links that Luc Montagnier is one of them, and this other one that shows these pictures of different flowers and what they look like. Those might be sticks. I can't remember what those are pictures of. But they're showing how everything around us, it has a different picture. And you can see it in the water. So water records the many properties, but its chemical composition remains unchanged, which is really interesting. The structure of water is more important than the chemical composition. And this comes from Rostam Roy, who is a professor at the State University of Pennsylvania. I think that's not the United States, it's another country. Okay, now there is a how water is connected. That's structured water is defined as how its molecules are organized. They join together in groups called clusters. So that picture is a cluster of water. And the clusters work as a sort of memory cell where the water records its relationship with the world as if on a tape recorder. So a recent study shows that positive and negative emotions, keep this in mind. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about positive and negative emotions because your body is 70% water. So that stuff is going to go into the 70% water of your body, and your body's going to carry the memory of what you're speaking. Okay. I'll let you read some of the rest of that. If we look at water memory theory through the eyes of quantum physics, they're still calling it theory, even though I think that they're getting away from that now. But they're saying if you're looking at it through the eyes of quantum physics, there's no distinction between a signal and matter. And I'll let you read the rest of this quote, but it's by Mark Henry, and he's a quantum physics professor. I think it's somewhere in Europe. I can't remember what university he's from. And here's some examples of water memory. Now, this one always fascinated me. If you look at Genesis 30, 37 through 42, Jacob puts branches of trees into water to create spotted, speckled, and striped flocks. And, I mean, it's like he was instructed by an angel to fill these troughs with water and then put different plants in the water and then have the animals drink from that water. And they had to be facing a certain direction. I'm not really sure I understand that, but the experiment was repeated at the Russian Academy of Sciences, where fish were introduced into water, that had super weak magnetic pulses. In the water, it had super weak magnetic pulses. And they were 10,000 times weaker than the Earth's natural magnetic field. And the fish produced small fry or small baby fish that were all different from the other fish, which they were related. So they began to look different than what they were expected to look. Interesting. So physical features appeared, stripes and spots on the fish all at the same time. Phenotype changes were also noted, and they were in all the fish all at the same time. The changes in behavior were also noted when they changed to outside stimuli in the same way. It was as if the whole school had acquired a collective mind. So imagine you compare that with what went on in Genesis 30. So I just throw that out there, showing the power of what we put into water. And this is a statement by a man named Jagi Vasudev, and I can't remember who he is, but he's a leading researcher on meditation and things like that. Water has memory. Depending on how you treat it, what kinds of thoughts and emotions you generate, accordingly, it behaves in your body. Thought it was really interesting. If water carries the memory of everything it comes into contact with, it's important to understand that what we put into our bodies affects us. This includes our thoughts, our intents, our words, our actions, what we eat, what we drink, what we watch, what we listen to. We have tools that have been given to us for the use of bringing our spirit, soul, and body into harmony with Creator's design for our lives. And that's part of what this 3-day challenge is for, is to give you some more tools for your toolbox. Music, flower, and sound essences use water memory to deliver frequencies to our whole being. And you're going to see a lot of this in the emotional roots of physical symptoms chart. My friend Seneca Sherbin, and Alice Briggs, we paired we've created a bench of three, or what we call a trifecta of music, a flower essence, and a healing modality. Flower essences resonate the specific healing energy of the flower as well as the energy of creator. This goes back to Genesis 1, where God hovered over the earth and spoke over the earth and created. So the essences capitalize on the flower's vibrational frequencies to alter negative emotional patterns. Flower essences can reverse trauma, anxiety, depression, and patterns of negative thinking. So I used flower essences to help me get through a hard point in life so that the emotions weren't so blah, 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 all over the place. Sound essences are the same way. They are meant to deliver the principles of healing through music, declarations, words. So whatever you speak into the water, and there's in one of the videos that is on water memory, there is a Russian scientist who put bottles of water in front of people and told them to speak words into it. And then he goes and he puts those bottles of water underneath the microscope and looks to see what shapes came out. That's how sound essences work. Very similar. So illnesses or imbalances are caused by blockages in various channels. And this includes our energy level, our meridians, our arteries, our veins, our lymph nodes, and our nerves, and even our emotional state. So both flower essences and sound essences, and I'm the one who creates all the sound essences for Freedom Flowers. The goal with sound and flowers essences is to assist in unblocking channels, allowing energy to freely move through your body so it has the opportunity to self-heal. And there's a link to Freedom Flowers. Okay, and we're going to talk about benches of three, but a bench of three is three things that work well together. Frequency works together like a symphony of harmonic resonances from the entire frequency spectrum, bringing our bodies back into wholeness and in tune with God's frequency. So color is art, chromotherapy, flags, colors in your home. Think of all the different ways, your flowers in your yard. Sound is the spoken word. It's noise, it's motion. Motion is where you are doing all kinds of things. And I did it when I first did this demonstration. I showed how you could shut someone's meridian points off just by emotion. I wouldn't do that, but it was a demonstration. We don't realize the power of motion. Sound also is general frequencies. I mean, we think sound is something beautiful, but you go out into the woods and you hear a chainsaw. That's not so pretty. The truckers drive down here on this Highway 41, which is, I live in North Idaho, and it's drives by me and they're shaking the house. I mean, that is a sound frequency, as well as our thoughts, our sound frequency, and our intents. Those, okay? Now, then you have the organized sound, which we consider music. This is singing, pitched musical instruments, rhythm instruments. So I differentiate sound in general with music, okay? So when I talk about that, that's what I'm going to use. Now we're going to talk about the bench of three among us. So we have days, months, and years. There's three notes that make a musical chord. For example, C, E, and G, that's a major chord. Make it E flat, it's C minor. So the spirit, soul, and body, that's a bench of three. There are three normal states of consciousness: wakefulness, awareness, and alertness. Their water is a recorder, conductor, and carrier of frequencies, or of a memory. There's three branches in many governments: legislative, executive, and judicial. Our thoughts and words and intents, actions. Yeah, I say thoughts, intents, and actions are, well, because words are the actual actions. There's your bench of three right there. I don't know if there's another one on here. There is. Color, light, and sound. And I'm going to show this picture a lot, but here's a picture, because we all have a personal mountain. I mean, and we're going to get to use our imagination. We were given imagination for a purpose. We shouldn't be afraid of it. I mean, sometimes some pretty weird stuff comes through there, but we want to focus on the positive things that come through it, and we want to do things with the positive things and get rid of the stuff. But if you see at the top of the mountain, if we're resonating with perfect love, all of these rays represent the energy from within us, and it reflects to those around us. So you've got your spirit up at the top, which works with love. Then your soul is in the middle. Then the body, which is represented by this house at the bottom. That shows how we function as a being. And I'll go through that. I can't remember which lesson I do that in. So we're going to connect some pieces here. If we want the best for our spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being, we need to incorporate techniques that bring a governmental authority over our lives. So a bench of 3 is a 3-stranded cord that's not easily broken, that gives us authority over something in our lives. And you bring 3 things or 3 groups of things together. Something that works for your spirit, something that works for your soul, something that works for your body. We allow our thoughts, intents, words, actions to frame up our world with what Creator says about us. This entrains us to His thoughts, His intents, words, and actions. So we're coming in with that whole thing on love. Everything we do in life requires practice. Practice takes patience and perseverance. There's another bench of 3: patience, practice, perseverance. And they're all 3 P's, which I had in my studio. And I'd point to them when students were preparing for a recital. By choosing what goes into our being, we determine how we resonate with and entrain with God's plans and desires for us. We find a wholeness plan and stick with it. Too often we try this. Oh, we'll try that for a couple of weeks. It's not working so well. We go try something else. We need to come up with something that we know that we can do, which we're going to start in the very next lesson, that we know that we can each be consistent with. We pursue, we participate, and we practice what we hear and learn. There's another group of 3 P's that is a bench of 3: pursuing. The more we practice, the better we become at something. I used to joke with my students that I spent more years in a practice room than they are alive. I mean, you don't get to be a good musician without spending a lot of time practicing. I mean, I practically lived in a practice room. And I'm going to go over more of my life story in the 4th lesson. I want to present all this other stuff first. I'm doing it backwards for a reason. It's all about practicing. And there's Squidward. Create a bench of 3 for any healing protocol and adjust as needed. I would swap out the word healing for wholeness protocol. And I might actually change that on the PDF that you receive. We work through our gates, and I do this in a Mountains, Gates, and Castles course, which I'll talk to you about more as we come up. Words matter. We frame them according to what God says about us and not what society expects from us. Too often, we're too freaked out with what other people are saying. And then I talk about this in my Maturing as a Mystic series. And then Transforming Mindsets. Ooh, I need to fix that. Is the book that is a sequel to But Words Will Never Hurt Me. Okay. Where I began the whole process. Practice, practice, practice. And I had a sign on my office that said, don't be a weenie, or no weenies. And that picture of Squidward is there because he's a terrible clarinet player. On day 3 of the challenge, you'll receive a time-sensitive coupon, which will include some of the things I'm talking about. Just throwing that out there. Now, here's your homework. You want to make a list of things that you desire to see changed in your life. I would do 3 columns. Make a physical column, make an emotional column, and make a spiritual column, because these represent a bench of 3 of your life. Physical is your body, emotion is your soul, spirit is your spirituality. Then you're going to make a list of things that you desire to see changed in each of those columns. Then the next thing is you're going to take the list into a meditative place or a time of journaling where you just sit and you get quiet, and then you just ask if there are connections between the three. Now, you might be able to see them right away. Things are just going to come welling up within you like, oh, I would have never thought that. And you're going to write out any connections that you see. This is what I ended up doing because I cleaned my gateways, and I'll talk about that as we get through this. And it was as I was cleaning the gateways that I got healed physically. So it was the emotional work that I did that made a 19-year sickness go away. So that's where we're going to see some of the connections. And that's one of the reasons to start looking over the emotional roots of physical symptoms chart, especially if you are in the VIP group. For those in the VIP group, you're going to get to pick out things from that chart that really resonate with you that we'd like to discuss. So we want to be sure to watch the video on TEDx about the power of words, and feel free to comment about the video on the Facebook post or in a Facebook post. There's a link to that video, and it's also on the webpage. And the next thing is make sure you click this link to join the Facebook group, because this is where you're going to put your homework. You're going to post your comments on the assignment and give at least 5 others some love via an emoji or comments. Or, I like GIFs too, or they call them GIFs. Discuss the homework, ask questions, and get to know others in the group and what works for them. This is a great place to ask questions that I personally will answer that were not answered during the sessions, because this is pre-recorded. And if you want to answer before the Thursday or before the Saturday, the last day session, which is August 24th, then ask them on the Facebook page or the Facebook group. Now, the other thing is, this is a great place to list natural healing modalities for others to incorporate into their bench of 3. If you have tried something that you know works, you're going to grab a link to what that is. Then you're going to post it in the group. Then you're going to talk a little bit about it. Let people ask you questions about what that modality is so that they can get answers to determine if it might be something that works for them. But only post the natural remedy if you've tried it and you liked it. Don't post what you've heard about something. Post things that you have tried. This includes emotional types of healing sessions. It could be a variety of natural techniques like VST, the tuning fork things. There's a whole bunch of things that people are using now. There's a Healy. There's a whole bunch. Again, there's just so many things. Now, here are the different studies I talked about earlier that I mention in this presentation. Click on them, watch them. Some of them are quite long, but enjoy them. And here are the resources that I talk about. There's Alice Briggs's site, her books, where she talks about in the emotional roots of physical symptoms chart. And then Seneca's author page has her books. And the flower and sound essences you are at Freedom Flowers. And I have several things on the Supernatural Lessons website, and there's a link to that. There's my author page, and I also have a Song of the Month subscription if you want a way that you can practice. So these are the things that the 3 of us have put together that actually can be helpful in a bench of 3 protocol that you'd like to use. Okay, so that being done, we're going to stop sharing. Okay. What we're going to do is make sure you get your homework out into the Facebook group. Share some love. We want to be friends. And because we help each other. I don't have all the answers. I am just giving you my parts and the things that I still am working through and walking through, because it's a journey and it's a forever journey. So we just get on the journey and enjoy the ride. So we'll see you in the next session.